Just a quick overview of what we're going to do and talk about. We're going to talk about some communicator qualities, some different types of communications, who I think are the best communicators, and then we're going to touch on a little bit of a sensitive topic of men versus women communicating, and then we're going to talk about school and after school. Okay, so what makes you a good communicator? Your message is perceived correctly by others, and you can get your message across to others correctly. I get my message across to others quite frequently. It does not always come across correctly, and that means that it's not perceived by them correctly either, which can sometimes be a problem. And why it's important to be a good communicator, so it builds powerful relationships. Here at school, we build a lot of powerful relationships through teachers, staff, faculty, community members, friends, family, and being a good communicator helps you with that. It also reduces misunderstandings. That's the biggest thing why I hate texting. When people text you and say like, okay, you'll be like, well, are they upset? Are they just truly saying okay and they don't care? Or do they actually have something to care about and wanted to say more and just didn't have the time? It also strengthens your persuasion. This is probably one of my favorite things to talk about. I'm pretty decent at persuading my teachers. If Ms. Dieterman gives us an assignment that's due on a Friday and we don't think that we want to have it done on the Friday, we're probably going to have it due Monday because we've had a tough week. And then it's going to be due Monday, and then probably we're going to get class time to do it Monday, and then she'll think back and be like, I should never have given it class time because we misused it. It also boosts teamwork and collaboration, being able to communicate effectively and manage people, as well as if you can boost your teamwork by talking correctly to others, getting your point across, and being able to motivate them. It also reduces stress and anxiety. Same thing with texting. If I text you, you can be stressed out about it or have anxiety of what I think about you or what I might think about you even if I don't exactly think that. Now we're going to talk about a couple different types of communication. The first is interpersonal. So the definition of this is the process of a person communicating with their own brain. So this is just you communicating to yourself. So a couple things that help with this is positive self-talk, so talking to yourself, like building yourself up, as well as planning, problem solving, self-reflection, evaluation, and judgment. So, like the bottom line, judgment. If you're not communicating well with yourself, sometimes you can misjudge things if you're not in the right state of mind and you can't evaluate them correctly and evaluate the situation correctly. Also self-reflection, if you can communicate with yourself honestly, that helps a lot in being able to make good decisions. Your problem solving, okay, you see the problem, now communicate within your own brain to be able to solve that problem on your own without having to use your phone or things of that nature. And also planning, so you have your day planned out in your brain. I'm a big planner as much as I may or may not seem as I am, but I am very repetitive and have the same plan every day. I wake up at the same time and get yelled at by my parents at the same time every day for waking up late. The second type is interpersonal. So this is your face-to-face communication. So you're verbal, you're talking to people like we are right now. You guys are both listening and talking back. But if we're talking back and forth, that's your verbal. Your nonverbal communication is what you do with your hands, what you do with your eyes, what you do with your body, how you compose yourself, as well as the written word. So if I write something out and give it to you or send you an email, send you a letter, that is also interpersonal. And then listening is a big part of that. A lot of people are very good at talking, but not very many people are good at listening. If you sit down and talk to somebody, if they're really good at listening, they can understand what you're trying to say and also give you good advice. Next is some of the best communicators in my life that I came up with. The first one is also my advisor, Trey Reed. There's a couple things that I think that he does really, really well. He is always prepared in whenever he's going to announce for soccer games, basketball games, volleyball games, whatever it may be. The picture down on the right is him at the Breslin. They asked him to announce for the basketball state finals a couple years now, and then him reading to some kids up at the top. He's also very organized when he comes in. He has all of his papers together. He has his name, his badge, whatever to get in, so it's a smooth process going in. He also has very good pace, and his tone is good. So he doesn't speak too fast to where you can't understand him, and he doesn't speak very flat, so you know when he's saying big things or small things, and he also knows the environment very well of where he's speaking in, whether he's speaking at a school or whether he's speaking to a bunch of adults. The next person that I chose is Caroline Levitt. She's the White House press secretary, and when she walks in the room, her presence is known. She walks in, and I was once described to her as a pit bull by one of my coworkers, and I think that that's true. When she walks in, everyone knows that she's there. Everyone knows that she's there to do business. She's also very well prepared. She has her questions laid out. She speaks her questions very fluently. She doesn't get asked to repeat them or anything like that. She also adapts to her situation very well. If she's speaking and something changes or somebody already answers the question, she's able to move along and flow very well. She's also very clear and precise. So when she does ask her question, there's no doubt of what she wants the answer to, and she also is pretty short and sweet with it. And she's also very confident, which I think that is part of walking into the room and being, hey, this is me, I'm here now, I'm going to ask my questions. As well as she's very media savvy, so she walks in, she can already take notes on her phone, she can post them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, Facebook, send out emails. Arguably one of the greatest communicators is Jesus. He told relatable stories to the people of his time and relatable stories to us. He also portrayed perfect images through them, through his stories to the people. So the people understood what he was trying to say, and even still we can understand what he's trying to say, even though that he doesn't have things, new technology like we have. He was also very truthful, so there was never a time where Jesus lied to the people and said, hey, I wouldn't do this or I would do this. He also spoke the people's language, so he spoke to them in a way that they could understand, and that he could talk to them in a way that just helped them understand what he was trying to say and how he said it. He also lived out the things that he spoke. So he said, hey, I think that you guys should do this. And then he went and did it. And he showed them that if he can do it, they can do it as well. He also came down to their level. What I mean by that is a lot of the time Jesus hung out with the people that were not the highest in society or the highest on the totem pole, from Zacchaeus climbing up in a tree to hanging out with tax collectors that people really did not enjoy spending time with or doing things with, as well as people that were on the corner doing that type of thing. He also spent time with them. Okay, so now I have a question. Who thinks in their marriage, in their relationships, that women are better communicators than men? You can raise your hand. Okay, who thinks that men are better communicators? How many of you didn't raise your hand? Okay. So I did a little bit of studying on this because I thought that it was kind of intriguing in the fact of, yeah, you're asking kind of a ballsy question out there like that. And so I did a little bit of studying, and I found that on a website, it says, it is generally accepted that women are better communicators than men. They're able to better recognize emotional cues and are naturally more empathetic, picking up on nonverbal cues from others. Women tend towards compromise and solutions that take into account the feelings of all parties involved. Men, however, are less communicative and more task-oriented. They are not as adapted by reading and interpreting nonverbal cues, as they tend toward independent problem-solving actions and emotions are aroused. This is partially because men process from the problem-solving left hemisphere of the brain, while women process equally between both. If you want my opinion on it, I think it depends on the person. There's a lot of women in my life that are very good at communicating and that get their point across. I also have a lot of women in my life that are not very good at communicating, but are very good at crying. On the same thing, I have a lot of men in my life that are very good at communicating and that are not as good at crying and things like that and being emotional. So, how it affects my life after school. Communication is a huge part of life, one of the biggest parts of life. If you're not good at communicating, it makes it very complicated to get along with people and for people to like you because they don't understand what you're saying. It also keeps your parents involved, sending your parents a text, giving them a call, going to their house and just talking with them for 10 or 15 minutes, because believe it or not, they do have a lot of advice. They've lived through a lot of things that we haven't lived through, as well as your grandparents, aunts and uncles, just adults involved in your life as we grow up to become older adults. It also helps with your spiritual well-being if you can communicate with God through reading the Bible, praying, going to church, things of that nature. That helps you become a stronger, better Christian. It also helps you with your community connection. A lot of going out into the community, you have to be social. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to talk to people and get your understand it, and you also cannot offend people in the community, otherwise they're not going to like you. It also helps with professional development. I'm going to touch on that just in a second as well. But professional development in the aspect of being a good communicator on your job helps you with your employees. Your employees or coworkers, whatever you end up being, are willing to do things for you, and you can do things for them. If you guys are good communicators, you can build a relationship, and it's not like, oh, well, they're always snippy and short with me, so I don't really want to help them at all. So how NMCS has helped. So the first way that it's helped is through my work study. So this year and last year, I got to go do a work study at one of our dealerships in town, and I was supposed to work on cars, and if you ask my dad, I spent it 50-50. If you ask me, I did not spend it 50-50. It was more like 1 to 365. I spent like 1 day wrenching, and I spent a lot more time selling because that's what I enjoyed more. They also let me do that work study in the aspect of it helps with the community relationships and helps build my relationships with others, building my relationship with Jesus, ultimately just learning how to do it with people and how to build people up. I also got the opportunity to take an oral communication class my sophomore year with Mr. Reed, was actually the teacher. So what that was a class of, it was a lot of speeches, but it was a fair amount of doing research and things too. So that just taught you how things to do when you're speaking to seem more confident and to seem more fluent. They also help us communicate with Jesus through chapel. So every Wednesday here we have chapel. You go upstairs, you spend 15 minutes up there, and you learn how to communicate better with God. Also, back in elementary school and even in middle school, sometimes in high school, they had us plan our own chapel. So then we had to learn how to communicate through doing that, how to speak to a larger group of people, which was probably the biggest crowd that we got to speak in front of for most of us. And so we had to learn how to communicate well with them as well. I also had the privilege of helping with the Sweetheart Dance, which was like our version of the Daddy-Daughter Dance. So I got to kind of make sure that everything went good and made sure that it was going smoothly, announcing things like that, making sure that everything went along. I also got to do some ads through pubs. So when you create a yearbook, and there's like a cost to it, so we had to go out in the community and talk to people and ask them if they were interested in buying an ad in the yearbook. And some people were like, no, get out of here, you're not even worth our time talking to. And some people were kind of on the fence. So if you were good at communicating and you walked in there confident, because most kids just walked in there and were like, would you like to buy an ad? And they didn't really have any reason to show them why. And I think that I did a pretty decent job with my crew of Ty and Cam. We went in there, we sold a lot of ads, the most ads. As well as communicating with teachers and staff. So a lot of the staff here, and I have decent relationships already, even though they are my teachers and they tell me to get back to class or whatever. But I still have a good relationship with them just through communicating with them and being able to talk to them like they're adults and being able to relate with them. So those are a couple of my sources that I chose and got information from. If you want those afterwards to fact check me, you can. Other than that, thank you for coming. Do you have any questions?